Hey guys and girls, this is Ian and welcome to today's very Christmassy kind of episode. If you look around my studio, you might notice that there is a distinct lack of Christmas decorations, and there is a very good reason for that. I haven't got any. Well, that's not true. Technically I have two. I have this one, which is a little snowman inside a tacky Christmas bauble thing. And then there is this one, which is a snowman on a spring with this. I have a single Christmas decoration, and it's... Tacky Christmas decorations aside, I feel that I really should have at least a Christmas tree, so I figured why not make one out of just stuff that I've got. Now bear in mind I have a lot of different crafting materials, so I know that I've definitely got the things I need to be able to create this, so I'm going to run you through all the different materials that I have and that I think I'm going to be using first. So firstly, I am going to be using various pieces of scrap paper to make templates. Obviously with that I'm going to need a pencil of some description, mechanical pencil in this case. Those templates will be being transferred over onto this crafting cardboard stuff. I use this all the time for all my different props and models and things. This is really useful stuff, and I highly recommend it if you're into making like models and props and stuff. It's just really thick, really tough card. It's great. I will also require the use of this wire. This is quite a thick gauge wire. I don't know exactly how thick it is, but it's quite malleable, and that's the important part. Thick and malleable. To cut the card and the templates, I have a pair of scissors and a crafting knife. I don't know which is going to be best for this yet, so I'm going to take both and see how I get on. Along with those, I'm going to be needing a cutting mat and some kind of a steel ruler. I have some super glue, a selection of different acrylic paints to go with them, a selection of different paintbrushes. I'm also going to be using some black primer. Now this is Bob Ross Black Gesso Primer. I have no idea when, how, where, why I got it, but I have got it, so I'm going to use it. I shall also require the use of a mince pie tin thing. This is going to be the base of our tree, like the little bucket that it's going to sit in at the end. Something else I'm more than likely to use is these wax and clay working tools. They're really useful, proddy, pokey, squishy, pushy things for getting into hard, tight corners. Really useful. There's another two materials that I'm going to be using which is slightly less common. Number one is this latex liquid rubber. This is used usually for making molds or prosthetics for special effects. I'm going to be using it for a different purpose a little bit later on into the project. I shall also be using this. This is Sculptamold. It's sort of a plaster of Paris mixed with papier-mâché kind of stuff. Anything that you need to lay down a large area of surface with a bit of volume to it, where plaster of Paris alone is just going to be too liquid. This is the stuff. Along with the Sculptamold, obviously I'm going to need some kind of a container to mix it in and some water to mix it with. And finally, last but by of course no means least, my trusty pair of pliers. I don't know where I would be without these. I would be lost. And so now let me show you finally how I'm going to make a Christmas tree out of all this stuff. I start by designing a template for each of the branches of the tree, starting at about 10 centimeters and working my way down to about 1, slightly decreasing each branch's size in an arc rather than a straight line. I end up with 13 different branch lengths I'm happy with, and add a final thinner 4 centimeter one for the very top of the tree. I cut all these out and transfer them over to card, tracing the outlines of each branch. 10 times for the largest and making my way down to just 3 times for the smallest, and then of course it's just a single one for the very top of the tree. Then comes the long and arduous process of cutting all of these out. I ended up with 78 individual branches, and cutting them all out took about 3 hours. I actually ended up using the scissors for this, as the knife was just too fiddly. Kept blunting and tearing the card, though the scissors gave me much nicer result. They were a lot harsher on my hand, and after 3 hours of constant snipping and cutting, I ended up with a nasty blister on one finger and nerve damage in my thumb, making it go completely numb, which actually probably helped the hours and hours of cutting ahead. Once this torture was over, I started cutting lengths of wire, one for each branch, starting at 10 centimeters for the larger branches and working down to 4 centimeters for the smaller ones, and then one much longer one for the top branch. These were all inserted in the corrugations of the card branches with a small amount of super glue on each. Now comes the messy part. Mixing up a small quantity of Sculptamold, I apply some to the edges of each branch. Sculptamold is easily malleable and as it dries can be gently smoothed over with a wet finger to create a great snow effect, or left as it is to create something with more of a frosty feeling to it. I primed each cardboard section of the branches with black primer before moving on to finally painting the branches. To do this, I used hook green for the base, followed by an emerald green highlight around the edges, and using a fan brush I was able to create a bushy needle effect on each branch. The snow was painted first of all with a very watered down cerulean blue to get into all the cracks in the Sculptamold, and then dry brushed with titanium white to tone down the blue and make the snow really pop. Finally, with all the branches painted, I could start assembling the tree. Starting with the topmost branch, I started to twist the smaller ones around the central wire, spiraling down and adding larger and larger branches until I had finally filled in all the tree, separated out the wires at the bottom, and at this point I removed all the branches. The trunk of the tree really isn't that effective, just being left as bare wire, and some areas isn't twisted together very well, so removing the branches allows easier access to the trunk to fix these areas, and also apply some liquid latex to the trunk to firstly hide the wire, but also to give a great gnarled bark effect. After applying 3 or so coats of latex and allowing it to dry, I painted the trunk with raw umber and highlighted with yellow ochre. I mixed up a second small amount of Sculptamold and filled in mince pie dish halfway, sat the tree's roots in the dish and filled in the rest of the way with the remaining Sculptamold. This was allowed to dry and then painted with raw umber and black wash for the soil. I then painted the tin scarlet directly to allow the metallic tin to show through for a metallic feel. Once all this was dry, I was able to reapply the branches, this time with a decent amount of super glue on each, leaving me with my final finished Christmas tree. So there you have it. After a whole bunch of hours, a bunch of blisters and a numb thumb, I've finally finished my Christmas tree, and it has turned out so much better than I expected it to. I'm really happy with the result. I need to put it somewhere. I need to display it for the world to see. Get out the way, Duff. You can go right here. There you go, Darth Vader, you've been replaced with Christmas. Guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed making it, and this is something that I want to do more on this channel, is some more kind of practical arty things and crafty stuff. Because I have a lot of stuff to do arty crafty things with, and I really enjoy it, so I hope you really enjoy it as well. And of course, if you have, please make sure to like the video and share it as well. Share the Christmas tree joy with all your friends and family. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as always, guys, take care, and I will see you next time.